Hello, we're back. This is day one of the Black Women Photographers Summit, third year in a row. Brr, 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 brr.
Woo!
And I'm so happy to be your host. I'm Chrissy. I'm a photographer from Chicago, currently based in LA. And we have one of my favorite photographers of all time, Ask Photos, here with us today from Ghana.
Hi, Chrissy. Thanks for having me on. I'm
Yes,
excited.
absolutely. I'm so excited to talk to you. Before we jump right in, I just want to remind you guys that we are sponsored today by Adobe Photoshop Lightroom, and we're giving away one free year of Adobe Photograph, or excuse me, the Adobe Photography Plan, which is Photoshop and
Woo!
Lightroom.
It's
Exactly.
quite expensive.
Exactly. And you get a whole year for free. All you got to do is use our hashtag BWP Summit on Twitter or Instagram to enter to win. So you can be that girl. You can be that lucky girl today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, please let's just jump right in. Where do we begin? Oh my God, your work and your storytelling is absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, you're one of my faves. Where does your journey begin? Like, let us know a little bit about you. Introduce yourself for the folks who might not know, which if you don't know, I don't know how, where you been?
Hi, my name is Ask. You can also call me Sianeh. The S in Ask stands for Sianeh. Technically, Ask is the first letters of all my names. So A is for answer, S is for Sienna, K is for Kpukuyou. My talent was discovered by my mom. Funny enough, it's quite surprising for an African child because creative African kids don't often get the support from their African families. So I'm very much one of the lucky ones, and I'm very aware of that. Um, Photography started off as a hobby for me in 2018. I got my first iPhone 8. My mom bought it for me, and that was when I was introduced to portrait mode. And my high school friends asked me to photograph them for graduation, and I did. And I shared the pictures with my mom, and that lady acted like those were some award-winning pictures. They were horrible. No shade to me, but looking back at it, those were some terrible pictures. But the point is, she's
And
always
your
been.
mom. We stand for that. We
We
stand.
do, we do, we do, we do. The point is, she's always been very supportive. Since I was a child, I was always been a creative child. I always play with textile, coloring books, drawings, and I wanted to be a fashion designer when I became an adult. So my earliest memory of my mom supporting me creatively would she would take me out to the local market and we'll buy fabric and I'll come back and make bows and clothing for my Barbie dolls and stuff. And 2018, when I took those pictures, I went back home to Liberia. If you don't know, I'm Liberian, Ivorian by birth, Liberian by nationality, but I'm based in Ghana. I went to Liberia for vacation, Christmas vacation, and when I was returning back to Ghana, she called me into her bedroom. She was like, "I got you something." 2 years prior, she got a Canon 6D for her office, but nobody really knew how to use the camera. Neither did I know, so I was confused why she trusted me with it because I don't know. she
Right.
gifted me the she gifted me the camera. She was like, "I truly see a vision or a field in photography or something with camera for you after those pictures you took." I'm like, "Girl, you really so far into the future because I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything." So she gifted me the camera. It's just like, just have fun with it. When you're back here for summer vacation, you can return it if you don't like it. If you do like it, pay me for my camera when you start making money. I'm like, geez. I was like, geez, excuse me, ma'am. So I came back to Ghana. I had it on my shelf for like 2 months. It collected dust. And randomly one night, I just picked it up. And I went on YouTube, started learning about it, started photographing my friends and my community. And that's literally how my origin story started. 6 years ago, this month, July will make me 7 years into photography.
Wow, happy anniversary. Brr, 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 brr. Month is, oh, well, we're technically still in June, but July is also
Yeah.
the of Black women photographers. So we have
Period.
we have a ton to celebrate. Like, what a lucky
So
month.
much celebration in July. July is a great month.
Truly. Shout out to all the cancers. We love you. Okay, so let's get into it. So you pick up this camera one day and like boom, you're there. And as a self-taught photographer, obviously you're using YouTube. Shout out to all the YouTube girlies also as well.
YouTube and also my friends. I had photography friends. I would randomly
Oh
harass them. I'm
yeah.
like, I need to learn this. Show me the way. And they will help me. But majority was YouTube though.
So then you naturally had this like determination to get this, like to get to know this camera once you started using it.
Absolutely. I randomly got the interest and here we are.
Okay, so then did you start immediately in portrait photography?
Yes, I noticed the camera always felt comfortable when it's like in portrait position.
Yeah.
The landscape is up to recently, maybe last year, that I started taking pictures in landscape. The reason I started taking pictures in landscape was because I got a job from Paramount Studios to shoot the stills for a film they were directing and shooting in Ghana.
Mhm.
And if you're shooting the still for a film, it all have to be in landscape. And when I was doing that, I'm like, well, wait, this is actually fun. And then I started, but it was very recent though, very recent.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to the recent. Can you tell us how you developed your artistic voice, how you developed your style? Like when you see an Axe photo, you know it's you. So we want to know, the girls in the chat want to know how you developed that.
Honestly, there was no game plan when I take pictures and edit it. What I noticed was I kind of liked warmed color pictures more than cool tones. And also, I follow a lot of photographers, and I noticed I'm on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you always see a lot of different photographers' work. And I noticed that Black women or Black people weren't really been photographed beautifully. Like our skin sometimes looked ashy or too dark. It just wasn't adding up. So when I started shooting or when I started doing it, I knew that I had to pay a lot of attention to our skin. And whilst doing that, I noticed what goes really for me personally
Right.
goes well with dark skin is warm tones. So whenever I'm in Lightroom, my hues are always so high and I'm going to the orange. Every time I enter Lightroom, it's orange, orange, orange. And when I started doing that, when I first started, I honestly say those were some of the ugliest. I shouldn't shade myself, but now those are some of the ugliest filters because they
I'm
were
not
just
letting you do this.
they just weren't developed well. But over the time, I understood what to increase, what to decrease, and how to go about it. But when I first started, other photographers would come to me and be like, "Why are your pictures so orange?" And I really appreciate that, but also don't appreciate that because sometimes it felt like it wasn't. They weren't trying to teach me. They were more like, "You're terrible at this. Stop doing it." So, but I sticked with it. I knew I liked orange pictures, and over the years, I developed it well to the point that it has now been used as a watermark. I don't use one filter, but all of my filter, the foundation of my filter, always have to have orange in it. Yeah.
Same. I do love an orange blue. I might even like tilt near the yellow. So I completely feel you. But I think it's super important in media in general, how we approach documenting Black women and especially dark-skinned Black women. And I love what you said, where it's like to you, like this is personal preference, obviously, and for your personal preference, it's orange. But I think there
Mhm.
is just some like science to that also. Like many Black women have a variety of different undertones, and like some Black women look beautiful with the more cooler edit or something like that. And I don't mean cooler as an aesthetic for folks in the cooler as in color, so like blues instead of the oranges.
Mhm.
But can you speak a little bit more about how maybe that might feel for you also as a Black woman photographer, or even if like that was your initial thought process, when approaching how you photograph Black people?
Mhm. Um, sorry, what exactly is the question?
How did you develop your approach into photographing Black people, especially dark-skinned Black people, as a Black woman photographer?
First of all, was I often am aware of the point that when you're coming to photograph someone, the camera is just an object. Every time I reach out to someone, or if I see a person in the street or whatever, I kind of push the camera away. I pretend like the camera isn't there. I try to get on a personal level, like a humanity level, communicate with the person, be respectful. And sometimes, yes, they say no, sometimes they say yes, but of course, we're all hoping they say yes. But one thing I have noticed is come with the energy that you came with and leave with the same energy. Because if I come all high, like, oh my God, you're so stunning, can I take a picture of you? And you say no, I'm like, the person feels like they're being used. So instead, I come high, stay high, and leave with even leaving with compliments. And sometimes when I'm leaving, they're like, "Oh, you is fine. You can come in and take it," because they feel comfortable, they feel open, they feel like I've connected with this person, and they can be my friend. They can trust me. That's one way that I use to take a lot of my street photographs. I often do street photography, and people sometimes like, "How the hell do you get people to just show off their best personality?" Because I'm like, I saw them for themselves. I communicated with them. I didn't just bring up the camera. People often forget that cameras are can be sometimes they're if you put a camera in your face, it's showing all your blemishes, things that you might be insecure about. So people often get shy. Even me, if you pull a camera and just show, I'm like, why? So even me as a photographer. So I remember that put the camera aside, talk to the person. The moment they feel comfortable. There are times even when I go up to them and they have a little kid, I make the kid take the picture. I just put it like change the setting where they can just touch the screen. And with that, you're involving the person's community. So now the person feel like this is not just about me. It's about other people. My child is having fun. And one thing I always do is ask the person for their WhatsApp number. In Ghana, we use WhatsApp to communicate. And I'm like, I will share your image with you. And one thing I do, well, that's multiple things I've been doing. That's just one thing. I would share the edit and the unedited pictures. I don't share raw files or unedited pictures with clients, but if it was a favor someone did for me, I will always share the raw file. The reason I do that is because not everybody will like my way of editing. And if I'm taking a picture of you, I want you to see yourself in the most beautiful way possible. So if maybe the edit makes it look ugly to you, you have the raw there. So I send multiple pictures, or if they don't have WhatsApp, whatever, I'm like, take my number. Whenever you have it, reach out and I'll share your pictures with you because it's unfair to take someone's picture and they don't know what's happening. They don't even have it. So yeah.
That's a huge kindness. And speaking of which, since we're talking about your images, I'm gonna go ahead and pull them up so everybody can see your incredible work.
Oh, I'm trying. I'm trying.
And while folks are viewing, first of all, you said street photography, and I'm kind of stunned, honestly, because most of your work looks so intentional that I wouldn't think these were somewhat like candid moments. Um,
Hmm.
and it sounds like your approach in that is just like being very human with people. Do you have
Hmm.
any tips to teach maybe some beginners who are interested in portrait and street photography in particular, how to remain in that space and being present with folks? And I'm gonna scroll.
Um, what I must say is when you get on set, try to take your wow moment. Your wow moment can be very random. You have to also remember, as much as you're there, you have to be physically, mentally there. You cannot be on set and then be somewhere else. For example, that's a street photography. That's street photography. It was on the street. These people don't even know these pictures are there. I took this picture in the north. But point I'm trying to make is whilst in the street, you have to act like the people on the street. If I was in somewhere like Osu is like a big street in Ghana, I can't go to Osu and be all tight up. I have to be free with the people. If I see a coconut seller, buy something from the people, invest back into the economy, the local economy. Talk to the people. Oh, Charlie, what's up? Like, what's happening? And there's like I feel like I have different personalities depending on the person I'm talking to. I kind of evolve into them. So if I'm on the street and I'm with like street people or street hackers or people sitting on the street, I wouldn't go and be speaking to them like I'm speaking to a CEO. Instead, I'm talking to you in our local pidgin, our local language, the way we talk, like what's up, Jade, how far, what's happening, etc., etc. So you have to remember space and time. If you're in a certain space, behave a certain way, almost like you're a chameleon. You have to change, you have to adapt. And whilst adapting, you have to also remember this is not your space. You and your camera are just being used as a vessel to document a certain moment. You can go to a certain place. For example, let's say I'm from Ghana. I can go to New York and try to control things and try to change the narrative. Instead, go and communicate. Ask people, how does things work here? Why are there people here? Why are there people there? Why is the sky blue, or why is it this color? And the more you ask or the more you communicate, the more you get to know, and makes your picture even more better, because now you have a background story and you know why you're taking certain pictures. There are times people often take certain pictures and you ask them what is happening. They don't know because they didn't give themselves enough time to communicate with the locals to actually know what it's about. Um, you have to remember that as much as you're taking these pictures, these people might never see these pictures or might never see you, but you have these pictures. This is your work. You have to put in that little bit of effort to get to know about these people. It's literally like research, but in person. So as much as yes, you have the camera, whatever, you still is not these people. Honor them, respect them. I'll give you an example. Last month was it last month? This month was Eid. I have been shooting Eid for about 2 months. Every time I go to shoot, I remember I'm not Muslim, but as much as I'm not Muslim, I need to respect how they dress, how they carry themselves. And if I was even offered something, always take it, because then it makes them feel like, oh, this person is one of us. So if I'm at an event and they offer me food, I'm not gonna act more big, or maybe except you're allergic, but if you're not, accept it, be
Right.
grateful, thank them. So
Right.
yeah, that's the whole point. Just be a part of the people.
Yeah, that's so important. I feel like you touched on like the feeling of responsibility to who you're photographing. Like
Hmm.
if you're treating them a particular kind of way instead of like as a human, as a person who you're trying to get to know. Like I think as a photographer, it's important to remember that you're often requesting things from people when you're shooting them, when you're documenting them. And
Hmm.
so you need to have like, a good amount of grace and respect for the people that you want to document. I
Absolutely.
think it comes across in your images, like this one here, like it looks so natural. This woman looks completely comfortable,
Comfortable.
right? Like we don't know if this is a person you already know, but she looks so comfortable that you would think, oh yeah, like she's photographing someone in her family. Like,
No, no. Funny enough, this picture is from a series, as you can see, is Sunday's Best. In Africa, or well, in my home or my family, when you wear like really nice clothes, will tease you and be like, wow, you put on your Sunday best. And normally it's
right.
on Sunday. So this is a project documenting West African wearing their best attire on Sundays. It can be for church, it can be for religious reasons, it can be for family reasons. I don't care. I'm just photographing them in their
And they
religious or their.
hey,
Exactly. So for this lady, I was actually literally just taking a walk in my community. I don't know her. This is the first time I met this lady. But the point is, I came and introduced myself. People sometimes forget that these are also, I see people like they're my clients, in the sense of I had to show this lady my whole portfolio. She didn't even know what's a portfolio. She didn't care. But by me showing her my portfolio, made her understand that this lady is actually truthful about what she's saying. She actually does take photographs. And as I'm showing my portfolio, I just wouldn't show certain type of pictures. I show pictures to her that she can relate to. So there's like a video or pictures on my page that feels like this moment, something that, for example, brofro. There's a video on my page of brofro. Brofro is a fried dough. West Africans have different varieties of their brofro, but in Ghana we call it brofro. I show her that video. That's something she can connect to, because she's a typical Ghanaian who knows the way of life here. So when I show her that, she was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Take my picture." And I took it, and it was so natural. I was just like, "Should I post?" I was like, "Oh, auntie, you are fine. You're perfect the way you are." And yeah.
that's so beautiful. So yeah, it's really important to remember your entry points with people and who you're interacting with.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Now, speaking of portfolio, as we're going through all of your gorgeous images, um, I would love to know, who do you get inspiration from? Because I feel like you're on a lot of people's mood boards.
I
Like, you're
am.
clearly big inspo. So,
I am.
what inspires you right now?
Um, this might sound a little cliche, but the honest truth is my community inspires me and nature inspires me. A lot of the time, I do a lot of people watching and just a lot of observation. So there was a time when I first started color grading, and I feel like that is what gave me a level of understanding in color theory that I didn't even realize that I needed. I was in a room, in my bedroom is white, and the sun was setting, and I noticed the way the white wall turned orangey brown. And then I looked outside, the clouds are like bluish purple. I'm like, it was the sunniest sunset ever. And when I realized that, I'm like, yo, okay. So when you apply certain colors to certain colors, like for example, I apply orange to white, white will absorb any color. If I apply this to that, it will absorb that. And that was such like a mind-blowing moment, even though everybody knows this, but sometimes you know things, but it's not relevant until certain times. And when I say my community inspired me, the people around me, their stories inspire me, including my story. I do a lot of storytelling through my images and through my work. And a lot of the time I take my pictures, I try to make my picture feel like everyday pictures because I find pride in preserving and archiving everyday African activities. Because when I was a kid, today I would talk to like my little sister, my 12-year-old little sister, and tell her things about my childhood. And she's like so dumbfounded that we're doing things like that, which seemed a bit normal to me. And out of that just make me realize that, oh my God, if I don't try to archive my present, the next generation wouldn't know what 2024 Ghana felt like or looked like, or 2024 Ghanaian, Liberian,
Yeah.
Nigerian woman. So I intentionally do things in a way that it feels normal, but it's just our everyday activities.
I talk so much about documenting my own life in that way,
Mm-hmm.
like how you're saying, like I want to remember 10, 20, 30 years from now, like what it looked like on a regular Tuesday in 2024, like what I was just doing, where I was in the world. Like there's something so pure and honest about capturing things in that way, I think. And that
Mm-hmm.
anybody can do with, you could do that with your iPhone, you could do that with your real
Of
camera.
course. Of course.
Incredible stuff. So I want to jump in the chat because we already got some questions for you. Speaking of gear, we got Shenandoah. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Shenandoah says, I'm a beginner intermediate photographer currently using a Nikon D3200 that was gifted to me. Do you have any recommendations for a new camera? I also used to use that camera.
Oh, go you. You should be giving her recommendations then.
Right.
um, Let me be honest with you. I'm not trying to shade any camera brand or whatever, but the truth is the equipment doesn't matter. That's the truth.
It's true.
If you have the talent and you want to take something, the equipment doesn't matter because I started with a phone. Yes, those pictures might be shady, but someone else saw the potentials of that picture that it gave me a professional camera. And that someone being my mom, of course. But my point I'm trying to make is I don't focus on the equipment. What I focus mostly on is the post process and also the planning of the shoot. Like I plan my shoots very well, or if I'm going to do street photography, I plan very well, like the time of the day, where I'm going, or if I'm going to document, I understand that I need to research about these people, whatever, whatever. But equipment doesn't matter. You can give me the dingiest of dingiest equipment. I promise you, I can make the best work out of it. So I need photographers. No shade. No, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. But the point I'm trying to make is if you have an interest in something and a true talent, just do it. And the reason I'm not giving you a recommendation is because what works for me wouldn't work for you. There are so many times when I was starting up, people recommended so many things and I tried it and it didn't work out. And I'm just like, this is so frustrating. And if photography wasn't my hobby, I would have dropped out a long time ago. I wouldn't still be doing this thing. But because it was my hobby and I figured out what worked for me, as I said, I started off a Canon 6D. I currently have a Canon R5. But the only reason I even upgraded to that camera was because I wanted really good video footages, and a Canon R5 shoots really good video footages. But if not, I still uses my Canon 6D. And some people consider it like when I shoot sometimes they're like, aren't you so big for that camera? I'm like, that's the point you're not getting. You're thinking you're too big for the equipment. It's use
Yeah.
anything. Use anything. I beg you, use whatever you have. Even if something happens and you don't have the camera, take your phone. There's iPhone photographers out there doing amazing things. Use anything you have. Just don't stop. Just keep shooting.
Yes, a word. And we talked about that in our talk earlier this morning with Imara, where it's like what you're really training is your eye, like your
Thank
eye,
you.
curiosity. Because I'm sure now today on your iPhone, you still take amazing photographs on there too. So, um, yeah, no shade, Shenandoah. But I think it also depends on, like Ax said, like what you're trying to do with your camera. So maybe in doing your research, think about like, oh, is it that I want to like get
Yeah.
into which camera might be better for wildlife versus portrait, things like that. Those are good questions to ask yourself. Okay, so next we have a question from K. Michelle Watson, who says, when you begin a project like Sunday Best, do you look to have it sold first, or are you just creating the project because you believe in it?
Every single project I've ever done never had a potential in my head. It never had a potential to be sold. I just do things. This is how I work. This is how I work. I often, and this is, I need you guys to understand this is coming from a perspective of someone who takes photography as a hobby still. As much as it's now my job, it's still much my hobby. So if I have an idea, next week I'm trying to plan it out and shoot it, and I'm not thinking about how far it will go, because the thing is, I'm not, a lot of the projects I do, I don't care about what I get in return. I'm thinking about how I'm preserving that part of history, if that makes sense. But
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, of course we need to live as creative, we need money, we need to survive. There are projects that sometimes, and funny enough, there are projects that I try to make to sell, it doesn't even do as well. But the point is, if you're trying to sell something or prepare to sell it, that's fine. You know from the initial start what you're doing with this. But a lot of my projects, I do it just for the fun of it. That's the truth, for the fun of it.
And I think that's important. I feel like that's where a lot of alignment and ease comes from, where you're like,
Hmm.
I'm doing something, I'm documenting something because I have a genuine interest in it. I'm curious about it. And gorgeous photos like this can come from that. And then maybe you sell it for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Exactly. No, exactly. I'm currently even in the process of selling some images. And if you told me if those pictures are going to get sold, or when I was shooting it that it would be sold, I would tell you it's a lie, because my whole purpose wasn't for selling. It was like, I'm grateful if it does sell, but also I don't feel defeated if it doesn't, because I'm like, maybe this is not the moment for it to be sold. I'll give you an example. There's a video that I took, it's also from the whole Sunday Best thing. The video is called Sundays Are Just for Me and Ma. I took that video 2 years ago and then published it last year. It took that video. This is the video. Go back up. The black and white. Go back up. Go back up. The black and white. Yeah, right here. The kid. Yeah. I took this video 2 years ago and I published it last year. And guess what? It's currently now been executed in Sweden from this month till 2025. But the point is, you don't do things because you don't know the future of it. You don't know the longevity of how long these things will last and how their lifespan. So just take things. My mom sometimes says I'm a junk hoarder. Like I really hold onto things. I'm like, I'm fine with that, because if anybody would have also told me that this video being in Sweden, been in an exhibition, I wouldn't believe it, because when I took it, I didn't think far. I just took it because I wanted to take it.
So then, okay, so you entering this short film world now, was it just like that where you were like, I just have this idea and you went for it? Like, how did you start that transition?
So every time I take pictures and my pic one place my pictures go really viral on is Twitter. Twitter really loves my images. Every time I take it, people always say this looks like it's from a movie. It's so nostalgic, blah 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 blah. From let's say year two up to now, every time I shoot, people feels like it's a video, it's from a picture. So I have to say I was a little bit influenced by my followers and also my supporters, and then I was like, but also I'm telling stories through my images. I feel like it's only right to start to make these images into actual moving images. And then that just kind of how it started.
I mean, honestly, it's given sign from God kind of thing where it's like, please, and then it's like, yeah, because look at this. This is absolutely stunning work.
Thank
Um,
you.
we have a couple more questions in the chat. Speaking of just like transitioning and selling work, from Mona, she asks, how does the process of selling images work?
So first of all, you have to always have some sort of contract, some sort of agreement. Please, anything you do, please have it in rating. I'll give you an example. I took some pictures for the Tate Modern earlier this year, I think earlier this year or last year, and those pictures were of the amazing artist El Ansatui, that's a Ghanaian artist. And if you don't mind, can we scroll up so to see the picture that we're talking about?
Absolutely.
Scroll all the way up, all the way up. It's pinned on the top.
Oh, okay.
The picture, the magazine on the right, the magazine on the right, the magazine, yeah. So I took these pictures, and every time, first of all, every time someone comes to you and hire you for a shoot, ask them what are the pictures going to be used for. The reason you want to ask them is because if they reuse that picture for another reason, you need to get some sort of money out of it. So for this, they told me the picture is going to be used in a magazine. A few months later, they reach back out like, hey, we want the pictures to be published in a book. Because we have a rating contract stating these pictures can only be used in a magazine, they had to reach back out. Because if I saw those pictures in a book, I could sue them for so much money because they're still making money off of this picture. So you want to have that agreement that this is the only, even if it's not signed, you just want to have it in rating. You want to have an email stating that these pictures are going to be used for X and Y reasons. So when they reached out, of course, they couldn't pay me the same amount they pay me to shoot the pictures. And also they don't have the copyrights. They weren't buying the copyrights. They were just buying the usage of the picture. So that is called usage fee. So for that usage fee, the amount that I charge them technically is you cannot have a full estimate. It depends on the photographer and also how long they've been doing this, also how big their name is. Because for example, if I have been doing this for years and years and I'm well known, I'm a Vogue photographer, I would never charge someone like $1,000 to use my picture. It would be a lot of money. We all know this.
Right.
But you also have to be realistic. As much as this is the Tate Modern and you know they have a lot of money, you have to be realistic that this is my level. I know I cannot charge these people an outrageous amount. Because if you do it, don't forget they have other photographers they could go and get pictures from. You want to
Right.
charge a reasonable amount that is a little bit higher than what you would normally charge someone. The reason you're charging a little bit higher is because it's the Tate. They have money they can afford compared to charging like just, I don't know, a magazine or something. So that's kind of a little bit how the whole process of selling images work for me. But this image wasn't so when I sell image, there's two things. You can sell the image or you can sell the copyrights. The copyrights is technically you're giving away all the rights of the image. If you sell the copyright, that means you don't have any ties to that image. They don't have to credit you if they don't want to. They can use that image however they want to. I will always advise photographers never to sell the copyrights because if you sell the copyrights, you will never make money off of those pictures again. But if you do decide to sell the copyright for such an outrageous amount that even the buyer doesn't want to buy it. The reason you're doing this is because remember, you're not making money off of it again. So if you sell the copyright for $50,000, remember that's the last $50,000. That's the last dollar you will make off of that picture. And let's say that picture ends up going and making those people millions, you will not get a percentage of it. But what I would say is instead, let them do usage rights. Every time they want to use it, buy it again. Yeah.
I think that's well said. And kind of around the same ideas of contract, somebody says, Bape Spouse says, how do you go about setting up a contract when it comes to being a freelancer?
Well, it depends what also you're being hired for.
Mhm.
So it's very simple. A contract don't need to be complicated. You just state what you're doing, why you're doing it, the duration of how long this image is going to be used for whatever reason. So let's say you're getting hired by Adobe. Adobe hires you to do a Nike campaign and you get the campaign either technically sometimes Nike will send you the contract or you send them the contract. Whoever sends the contract, just read it and make sure it aligns with what you want. And in that contract it will state what you're doing, what you're being hired for, how much you're being paid, how long these images are going to be used for, how they want the images to feel, like the treatment of the image, all of that. So the contract has to do everything with the picture. So imagine like you are trying to tell your client what to expect of you. Technically, a contract is exactly saying what to expect from me. And yeah, that's it. That's a contract, what to expect from me. It doesn't have to be complicated. A contract can even be 4 lines, just what to expect from me.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be filled with a bunch of jargon. And if I'm not mistaken, I think on Black Women Photographers YouTube channel, which everybody should go subscribe to, There might be an episode on there just about contract work and licensing photography, licensing your images, and just like big Q&As about like how to do that and what the process is. So y'all should definitely check that out if y'all haven't already. I'm gonna keep running through these chats because we got a bunch of questions in here for you. Okay, so Mona says, how do you deal with creative blocks and continue to stay inspired? Slash, how do you come up with concepts? So we can answer the first one first.
So creative block. I realized that my creativity is not for me in the sense of I didn't give this creativity to myself. If you're Christian, God gave it to me. If you're spiritual, the universe gave me this creativity. And there are times that God, the universe, whatever you believe in, sometimes tells you, take a break. And I think that's when the creative block comes in. It's not that you're not creative. I'll tell you, for example, for the last 2 years, I've had the craziest creative block. I wasn't inspired. I couldn't pick up a camera. And even if I did pick up, the pictures were terrible. I just wouldn't like what I'm doing. And it shows all signs that just how your body needs rest, you need to see your creativity as an individual. It needs rest. It needs to take a break. And you don't tell your body how long it rests for. You don't tell your body how long it can be sick for. When it wants to be sick, it gets sick. And it will be sick for however long it wants to until it gets well. But by you helping your body, like maybe going to the hospital, then that's you helping to fasten the whole sickness. What I can say is by you meditating, you still communicating with your community. That's how you also still get inspired. Yes, you might have creative block, but if you went down the road and hanged out with my Equia and my Equia is telling you about something random, but then it cracks something in you. It's like, oh my God, that could be documented. Can you
Yeah.
please invite me when you're doing this event? Let me come. Guess what? You didn't create that creative idea. My Equia inspired you to get that idea. So the universe or God worked through my Equia for you to get that idea. So as much as you have creative block, you still have to try to interact with the people that you normally work with. So that's kind of like your medicine. If you were physically sick, you use medicine to fasten the sickness. If you're creatively blocked, still be creative in the sense of create mood boards, go to exhibitions, talk to your community, shoot. Even if you are not going to publish those works, still try to do things and you are helping yourself by fastening the creative block. Yeah.
Come on, that's a bar. Let's go.
How do I get inspired? That was the second question.
Yes, that's the second one.
So there are two ways I do this. Pinterest is my best friend. I am on Pinterest like they pay me to be on there. Shout
Hey,
out Pinterest. What's up? Like, look at your girl. I'm always on that app.
nobody gets
Sponsor me,
you
Pinterest.
online.
Sponsor me, Pinterest. But Pinterest is where I get a lot of great inspiration from. But besides Pinterest, I'm inspired by my community. I'm inspired by my family. I'm inspired by my childhood. A lot of these pictures, if I had to talk about it, you will tell or you will see that it's related to my childhood or related to a friend or related to some story that someone else had lived and I'm now bringing to life. So my community, the people around me inspired me. And then if the people around me is not inspiring me, Pinterest is my last stop. And then I go to Pinterest.
Okay, cool. Um, so let me go to another person. Lakendra says, my goal is to have my work in galleries and magazines, but how do you know if it is good?
What is good, the
I don't
magazine or
know.
the
Yeah, they might be missing a word here. So Lakendra, just like retype your question, please. And while we wait for you, we'll just move on to the next question. But a couple people asked, like, what is the best place to post pictures for your clients, or like, how do your clients find you? And like, how did you build your online presence, which I feel like are all pretty much the same thing.
So let me tell you, right now, if you go on Google and search Ask Photos, what will come up will be interviews I've had. What that have really helped me a lot to get to people noticing me is interviews and also being consistent on social media. But people often won't take interviews because it's not the interview they want. It's not like the Vogue interview or this big magazine. I will tell you today, you have to start small to get big. I got interview from their most random people, But the point is, I realized that as much as these people are interviewing me, I have to understand that they saw something in me. They have a different demographic of audience that I probably have not even reached. And this interview will probably reach them. And that even makes my scope of potential clients way bigger. So interviews helped a lot. I took interview from high schoolers, from everywhere. As a kid, I'm just taking it. And as much as I was taking it, I took every interview just as important as I would take I don't know, a Hollywood interview. That's how important I took it. And then another thing that helped was staying consistent on social media. So on Twitter in the year 2020 to 2022, I was putting out projects like I was a machine. I'm not exaggerating. I will put out well planned out projects, four of it in a week. Like so much like you will come on social media and it's just ask photos, ask photos, ask photos. It's like everywhere you went, you see me. And it was intentional. It was intentional because now I have time to rest. Now my name is known. It's not as known as I want it to be, but now I can rest. I can take breaks where even if I post again, people can be like, oh, yeah, we know you. You've been posting for the last 2 years consistently.
Right.
Consistency is the key. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. Be consistent. And when I say be consistent on your social media, remember quality over quantity. It's not because you've taken it, you have to share it. Does it have quality? Does it make people feel a certain way? Does it evoke emotions? Does it do you also you have to remember, do not make money the driving source of why you are shooting. If you do that, you get frustrated. Because photography started off as a hobby and it became a passion. That's why I behave like I don't need money to survive. Sometimes I will have $100 in my account. I'm not exaggerating. I will take 50 of it and go and invest it in a prop because I'm just like it's like I'm itching to get the idea out in the public. So if you remember to make money in the backseat and let your passion lead, I promise you your potential clients will find you, the opportunities will come. It won't come as fast as you want it, but it will come. It will come if you stay consistent.
I love that. I feel like you just spoke a word also to the last person who asked the question, but it was a bit of a typo. She responded and clarified, my goal is to have my work in galleries and magazines, but how do I know if my work is good enough? And I think you
Oh.
kind of answered that. And right, I feel like LaKendra need a little bit of love. Um, because like you said, it comes from training your eye and being consistent. So you will definitely find the thing that
So sorry.
no,
So
no,
let me
no.
just say this. When I first started, the reviews I got, trust me, I would have stopped a long time. When I share work, people will text me and be like, "Why is your picture so orange? This is ugly." No, up front, they will tell me it's ugly. They won't even try to sugarcoat it. But because sorry, I'm gonna kind of change conversation a little bit. Before you start anything, you have to have a purpose. You have to know why you're doing something. And when I realized that I wasn't shooting for the validation of outside and I was shooting just to satisfy my creative craving, I did not care what people thought. And also, art is subjective. Art is very subjective. You see people selling something you would consider trash. Someone else is selling it for $1 million. You will consider a work ugly. I can see your work right now and find beauty in it, or I can find something in it. Guess what? There are ugly works, but still tell story. There are like the ugly truth. Like there's a picture on. Can you scroll down a little bit? A picture on this page. Um, keep going, keep going, keep going. Yes, the one with the kid reaching for the flower. So you see this picture and be like, it's a nice picture, isn't it? It's a nice picture. But there's an ugly truth to this picture. As much as it's a pretty picture, the message behind this picture is about sexual assault. It's about rape and girls in Liberia and West Africa having to deal with the rape crisis. And the whole point I'm trying to say is someone else will see this picture and they'll be like, that's a pretty picture. But they did not know the ugly truth behind the picture. This picture could also be very graphic and ugly, and someone else saw and be like, oh my God, why would you share such a picture? But you are not staying long to realize what I'm trying to tell you. So, like in this picture, I kind of am using flowers as a representation of sexuality and virginity. The project is called Flower Girl or Garden of Flowers, kind of playing still on the name. But the point is, if society don't protect their garden of flowers, it will easily be ruined. And the reason I compare virginity to flowers is because flowers are so fragile and they're easily spoiled if you don't really, it takes a lot of care for you to grow a rose, my point. And also, it also takes a lot of non-care for you to destroy a garden. So, and also in Africa, when you're getting married, they will normally make a joke and be like, you came and pluck our flower from our yard. But the point I'm trying to make is you have to have a purpose. You have to know why you're doing things. Don't wait for outside validation. Even if your sister says it's ugly, if you think the picture is pretty or you think the message you're wanting is getting across, forget what Esther said, forget what Sienna said, forget what. There are times that people who look up to me, other photographers who look up to me, come to me and be like, Sienna, what do you think about this picture? It looks so nice, but I don't know. And I ask them, do you like the picture? Yes, I like it. Then I don't,
What else do
whatever
they
I tell you
know?
doesn't matter. Whatever I tell you doesn't matter because in my eye, I might not like it. Someone else might like it. So I want you to understand now that your picture is worthy. You might not see the worth right now, but I promise you someone else will. And again, I'm going to put it back to my mom. When I took those pictures of my high school friends, I was just being playful, but she saw the worth. She saw it. I thought they were ugly, but she saw the importance and saw how far it could go. So don't even worry. What I'll say is reach out as much as you're reaching out. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to hold your hand whilst I tell you this. Don't expect these people to even mind you. Don't expect them to respond. You will reach out to so many of these exhibitions, to so many of these galleries, they won't look at you. The reason they won't look at you is because there's so many other people reaching out. So as much as you may reach out, there's like hundreds of us and then three of the galleries. They don't care. So what they rather do is let them reach out to you. When they reach out to you, then that's when it's like, okay. But as much as I'm saying let them reach out to you, that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop reaching out because one day they might see you. So keep reaching out, keep tagging them. But don't ever say you think your pictures are not worth being in the gallery. Please don't do that. Don't do that.
Exactly. Thank you so much for saying that. And I also
Of
think
course.
in your response, you kind of touched on two different questions in the chat here. So Anonymous says, how do you get your work in galleries in the first place? If they aren't coming to you, how do you approach them? But I feel like you answered where it's like, you got to pitch yourself via email, which you can find on a lot of gallery websites. But the one that I'm really curious about how you feel, because for example, Flower Girl is a really intimate photo series and concept. So Jamie Walker in the chat says, what are your thoughts on the ongoing discussion surrounding the ethics of street photography and photographing people who may not be aware that you're doing so? One of my favorite photos I've ever taken, I haven't posted because it feels too intimate to post without the people knowing I even took it. But I love it and I'm torn about just leaving it in my archives for no one to ever see. Where do you fall on the line of like the ethics of street photography and just sharing like very intimate photography in general, I
Mm-hmm.
think?
Mm-hmm. First of all, you always need to get the approval of the person. I will tell you this. There are sometimes moments on the street that, of course, let's say the person is doing something that caught your attention. And you know for a fact if you go to the person and try to tell them, hey, I'm coming to take a picture, they won't do it the way they were doing it before that caught your attention. So what I'll tell you is steal the shot, get the shot, go to them and tell them, hey, I took a picture of you. This is what I do. Show them your portfolio. And this is what I would like to do with this picture. If anything else comes out of this picture, I'll hopefully reach back out. If not, at least they are aware that someone took that picture. The point is, they always have to know you cannot take a picture and then keep it. Okay, let's say for example, if the person is like driving by past, of course they won't know that because you cannot stop them and just collected a picture. I feel like that's a bit different. There's times where you should be like human enough to just go and ask permission. And if the person says erase the picture, don't use it, delete it, well, you have to. And at those moments, I honestly just see it as that picture was never meant for me. It was just for me to experience that moment in person. You have to see it like that and let it go. You can't beat yourself over it. But at the same time, if you steal a shot, go and tell the person whatever you'll decide, you'll decide. But if the person is like on a moving, whatever, that is out of your hand. You can still share it. And then if the person sees it and reach out, then you go and coordinate to what to do. But you don't steal a shot of someone standing and then you just go and pretend like you didn't take it. That's very unfair. A lot of time people treat people for getting to know that It's so easy for you to be in that person's shoes. You're not the only person to have a camera. Someone else can go and take your picture. So what I do is just treat others the way you would like to be treated. Please scroll up. I'm trying to reference a street photography
Yeah.
that I did. I don't know if I archived it. Oh, please. I hope I didn't archive it. I think I did. Sorry, can you scroll down? I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is I saw this guy selling coconuts on the roadside, and we had one of the best conversations. We talked about African economy, and he talked about how the politics are going on and on. But when I went, he was a bit hesitant. But then when we started talking and he saw that this person just don't want a picture and she's seeing me as a person, I was there for a good 15 minutes. We had a civil conversation. He was like, yeah, go ahead and take my picture. Okay, give me a second. Since we cannot find it, let's go to the guy in the black and white with the glasses, the older dude. And I always write the story of how we came about. That's a street photography that I took, yeah, in 2021. This guy, I was on the beach. He randomly came up to me. He's an older dude and was playing his guitar for some money. And honestly, I was a bit annoyed, but I was like, you, it's fine. Let me just listen to what he wants to play. After he played, I'm a very inquisitive person. I always am asking questions. And I saw he's an older man. This man is in like his 80s. Well, now he'll be in his 80s. No, he was 73. It says 73. He's in his 70s. But I had a whole conversation with him. I asked him how did he start, and he told me how he got his guitar from he was a young age. He's been playing, and he gave me advice on how to do my artwork, and I need to make my passion lead. I can lead the passion. The passion always needs to be ahead of me. And if I never stopped this guy and communicated, or if I just stole those images, I would have never gotten those advice that are worth so much that technically you are even on this Zoom call right now to get those same advice. But I got that advice for free, for free 99. The only reason I got that advice for free was because I was inquisitive enough to ask him, to get to know more about him, to know that I'm not just taking a picture, I'm getting someone's whole life in this small moments that we're having. So take the picture, talk to the person, and if you think the person has been hard to deal with, I promise you, people want people to ask them questions. They want people to care about their life. The moment you care about someone else's life, they'll be like, okay, it's fine, you can use the picture. So you always have to remember your subject is always the meme character. The meme is never about you, it's always about them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super important. Thank you for saying that. And on the same note, Anonymous in the chat asks, if people are nervous, are there any icebreaker questions you go to help make them more comfortable? Like, do you have any go-to questions?
So I'll give you a scenario of how I normally do street photography. Let's say, for example, I don't know. Okay, oh, sorry. For example, these pictures, all of these shots were stolen. But as much as they were stolen, they all were aware, like they saw, like you can clearly see the way we are facing each other. They saw that there was a camera in their face and they were okay with that. But questions you can ask, or what I would tell you, the best way to approach a person is with compliments. Quissy can approve to this. The moment I entered this chat, the first thing I was like, "You're so pretty." The reason I said that was to break the ice, to make her feel comfortable that we can just chit chat. I'll tell you for a fact, this is the first time I ever meeting this woman, but you can see how the conversation is going. It's not stuck up. It's not weird. I know she's here to do this, but the point I'm trying to make is she was just a few minutes ago, she was a stranger. So you see a person on the road, find something on them and compliment it. You see the hat. Oh my God, your hat is stunning, but also remember the environment you're in. If you're on the street, talk like you're on the street. Don't go and talk like you're a CEO. So, for example, if I'm in Ghana and I see someone on the street and it's like a guy my age, I won't go and be like, wow, your heart is so beautiful. So even your tone, everything matters. Instead, I'll go up to this person, Charlie, that had the bio. That's pigeon. That's how local Ghanaians speak, or like, yeah, that's our pigeon, or you speak in the local tone. The point is, you have to remember it's not about you. So you are speaking in a way that they feel comfortable, not how you feel comfortable. The most important thing is to make them comfortable. So what I would say is, don't even go and be like, hi, my name is, don't even do that. That's long, because time is money. People don't have time to waste. I don't know you. Why are you telling me your name? I don't care about you and your name. Go away. But instead, if you come and be like, your hat is so stunning. Oh my God, that lipstick looks so good on you. Now they're attentive because it's about them. you've taken the attention from you and put it on them. So yeah,
Mm.
always start with compliments.
Yes, perfect. And I can also attest to that. That's the first thing I do for any shoot. And when I try my hand at street photography, it just breaks the ice. Like she said, like it breaks the ice. It makes people usually, it makes people
Yeah.
super cool to interact with you and be curious about you too. Like, okay, what you got going on? As our time is winding down, I just want to ask you one last question.
Mhm.
Um, this is from Babes Files. And they say, when editing, do you keep all of your presets? Like, for example, if it worked for one photo, it may potentially work for another. Do you ever make new ones?
Yeah. Every picture I take, I kind of make a new preset for it before I even go into my old presets. When I shoot or when I edit and the preset, so I only save presets that work out. I don't save preset like if there's a picture and that preset doesn't look pretty on it, I won't save it. But I might save it sometime actually because let's say for example it's a black and white picture and I really like how the feel of it look. I will save it, but I try not to save as many because then I it gets too much for you to select like when you're having to go through it you don't want to go through hundreds of presets so instead you declutter take the ones that doesn't work out but for example someone like me that like warm tone pictures of course if I did something I always save the warm tone ones but yeah I save majority of my presets.
Yeah, same. I love saving my presets. It makes it so much easier. Especially like once you've built your own niche and you got like a look that you typically like. I think even if you're like buying presets from another photographer or something, you can use it as a base and then edit on top of that, like tweak it a little bit so things can feel fresh and new, but still in the direction that you love.
But just to add on to that, I will always recommend photographers to always try to learn how to create their own presets. The reason my pictures sell as much as they do is because of my presets. You don't want to create, or you don't want to, let's say you're using an app, you don't want to use an app and then the app get discontinued. Then you don't know how to create that same preset. The reason so I don't know if I said this, but I was hired for a job for Paramount Studios earlier this year, last year, I don't remember but the reason they hired me is because of my understanding of color theory when it comes to picture. So you don't want to block your blessings by by being so used to using other people preset that you don't understand how
Yeah.
presets work. Because if a job come and like we just want you to color these pictures, and then you're like, oh, I don't know, but then the presets you have doesn't work. So I will always advise, please learn how to do it. It's so easy. Just go and play around with the play. Just go and play. Have fun.
Hey, just go play. Oh my God, Ask. I wish we could sit here for a whole nother hour. Like we didn't even get back to the Paramount. Like so much to get to. But I'm so grateful for this hour of your time. It's been so wonderful getting to know you and learn from you. We still had a couple questions we couldn't get to, and that's okay. But before we go, I just wanted to remind everybody here that this, along with like all of our other educational resources, are free in order to keep it accessible to our community. And like I said at the top, this is the third year in a row we could do the Black Women Photographers Summit, which we're so proud of. So please go find us at blackwomenphotographers.com and on YouTube at Black Women Photographers to gain any more insight. And as a reminder, this conversation and all the rest of them this weekend will be recorded. So if you came in late, maybe you missed the one earlier, don't worry about it. You can still catch it later. Um, Thank you again, Ask. I'm so, so grateful. We're so happy to have you. We hope you have a beautiful day, and we'll see y'all in about like 30 minutes with our next guest.
Thank you so much for having me. Just one last thing. I know the
Yeah.
Instagram we've been showing is AskPhotos. Unfortunately for me, I have lost access to that account. So if you want to stay updated with me in real time, you can follow me on AskBox, AskBoox. Yeah, that's it.
EAO,
X, double O, Xbox.
like that.
Where did you type it?
Oh, in the chat?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I see it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect. So make sure y'all go to that. Thank you so much, BWP, for dropping that in the chat. Go follow Ask. Thank you again, Ask. We'll see you soon.
It was lovely having me on here. Bye, guys.